So I'm scrolling through Helwani's Twitter profile looking for a topic for the day. And shockingly, I found one. And that's the first time in a long time. Talking about darts and at any rate. So he had some MMA today and he had the bullet on. And my days of attempting to correct the bullet are behind me. They're behind me because one of my largest arguments with the bullet came from an envious standpoint of the overwhelming success that she's had and what should be able to be done with that success. That's it. I had no other critique of her, like from a fighting standpoint. She's a beautiful girl and people like her and she seems to have good energy and speaks 7 languages and trains people and gives back. And it's one of these situations. Her mother was a fighter, something along these lines, made her mother proud, it's got her sister, right? The bullet's got everything going for her. She's also the most decorated fighter that I know of that has never been a main event. And even if you want to correct that and tell me about once upon a time in front of an empty, I don't think there is a story like that, but please don't correct me. If you're champion of the world and you're champion of the world many times over and you haven't main evented a pay-per-view that was meaningful, just stop. You haven't main evented. We're saying the same thing. And it was very interesting that biggest sold-out crowd and a main event belonged to her as a challenger. It was a very interesting thing. And I had made a suggestion over time that she go heel. I had made a suggestion trying to study this, right? It's a very unique case where you have a very attractive, not to mention she demographically represents Kyrgyzstan, right? It's a part of the world. I mean, I remember when Michael Bisping was like the highest paid guy that you heard of, to the point that Lorenzo Fertitta even told me, I've never had any fighters pay disclosed that's brought more people to my desk than Michael Bisping. He said, and this is from Lorenzo himself, he said, you gotta understand, when I get Michael Bisping, I get an entire country. So don't bring me what you've done. He has an entire country. It was just the truth. Lorenzo just told the truth. And we've got a lot of people like that represent an area. Sean O'Malley and the Irish, right? Coming in from Arizona. But he goes out to Boston. It's just one of these amazing things. And I bring that to you only because she also has that. She shares it with her sister, but she's got a lot of things in boxes that she could check. You find out about the 7 languages. I mean, people have argued that she's actually an international spy, of which there's no truth to that. But her level of success is so extraordinary, and her skills are so unique, that it was a pretty easy rumor to get started that used to live a lot stronger. I actually haven't heard it on the interwebs in a while, but it used to live pretty strong. It's amazing. That's how you become a myth. It's an amazingly powerful thing. And still can't be a main event to defend her title. It's just an interesting spot. I just try to break it down. I came to a conclusion of you have a heel that's trying to be liked, whose perception and sportsmanship and people cheering are so at the core of what's important to you that the audience is seeing through it and not grasping on. And the only way to know that is right is if she embraced it and went heel. And it didn't happen. It's also not going to happen. She's also not the champion, so it's not the same media, the same opportunities. And I'm just going to let it go, but I sure do admire her. And I felt as though I understood her a little bit better today. My general consensus was, and particularly when you're a second generation person, but you're the third person in your house, right? When you do it, your sister does it and your mom does it. You would think just at the dinner table, you could sit down and figure out how to draw. My father wasn't a fighter, but he was a fight fan. And we would drive around in his truck when I was a little kid. I wanted to be like Mike Tyson. I used to wear black socks. Mike would wear these black boots, but you couldn't see his socks. So I didn't have the boots, but I would wear the socks and pretend they were boots. And I would have black shorts like Mike Tyson with nothing written on them. And I wouldn't have a robe. I would have a towel that I'd cut out and put my head through. Mike Tyson never wore a robe. And I would pretend I was Mike Tyson. I'd go watch what I could of his tapes. There was no internet back then, so you had to catch it live. I didn't even have a VHS recorder, but I had to catch it live. And I'd go in the living room and I'd try to do Mike, right? I'd try to do what I could do. But my father would talk to me about it. He's like, hey, it's not as incumbent that you be as good as you are interesting if you want to be a main event and you want to make it. I said, well, Mike's the best. And my dad said, well, maybe, you don't know that. So he said, I do. He's a champion of the world. He's the best. My dad said, he's never lost, but he's only fought 28 men. My dad said, there's 2 billion men on this planet. You don't know if he's the best because he fought 28 of them. And it was just my dad's point. I didn't get it at the time. Mike was the best, and that's why he was the star, and that's why he's got Robin Givens. That's why he's doing the Diet Coke commercials. Like, this is what I thought, but I was also 11 years old. But we would have these conversations about what it might do that you found that was interesting. It wasn't that he bobbed his head like that. He did something else that you found interesting to bring you in, so that you watched the piece where you noticed the head bobbing and the towel and the black boots without socks. We would have conversations about those things. I watched the bullet on Ariel's show today, and I just realized from a different standpoint, they haven't had those conversations. It was a different time. It was just a different time. When the parental, right, the parent came through, there was nobody watching, and there was no sponsors, and there was no money. It was purely about the honor of victory. And when I started to understand that that's where she comes from, and just as a colossal misunderstanding of the business side of it, and how you get placements on a card, and why she was a champion for so long and was never a main event, and why as a challenger there's 17,000 people. Like when I realized that she is a colossal misunderstanding of it. She's on Ariel's show. I'm not giving her a hard time, by the way. I'm trying to do the opposite. Trying to make up, trying to smooth things. She's on Ariel's show, and she told Ariel it would only be fair if she rematched Grasso in Kyrgyzstan on Kyrgyzstan's Independence Day. It would only be fair. And you must understand, this is after, and it's about 8 minutes after. She's told Ariel, Ariel's re-asked, she's told Ariel again, Ariel's re-asked, who do you want to fight next? And she said, whoever they want me to fight next. And it wasn't the promotion, it was you guys. If the fans want to see me fight in a trilogy, if the fans want to see me fight someone else, and that's where the first misunderstanding that she spoke of comes from. How would you know who the fans want you to see? You're the one on camera. You're the one doing the interview. You're the one with the message, social media. How would we get to you? Do fans get to go on Ariel's show where they just start yelling, or how would you ever know what the fans wanted? How would you ever know what the pulse was? You look at a couple of DMs on Twitter, and it was a very strange thing to say, but it also showed an understanding. No, you've got to steer the ship. You tell them where you want them to go. Now, they're not necessarily going to get behind it. That's where you do turn to the social media and you find out that's not the direction they're interested in. Then it's incumbent on you to throw out another idea and pitch a story along with it and try to get it over. And then they will get back to you and they will let you know if they like that idea. If they do, run. See if you can get it done with the promoter. If you can't, get it to certain directions again. It doesn't start with the fan, though. It was a very odd thing. And then she mentions, and she was serious, this wasn't a joke. It would only be fair to rematch in Kyrgyzstan on Independence Day. The fight that she just had wasn't in Mexico. It was in America. So when you're talking about being fair, what is it you're talking about? And moreover, when is Kyrgyzstan's Independence Day? And she referenced the president of Kyrgyzstan and what a supporter he is of sport. I didn't know any of those things. That's interesting to me. I don't refute them. What sports does the president specifically get behind in Kyrgyzstan? And moreover, what sports are happening in Kyrgyzstan? And where are they? And in what network? Like, what infrastructure and basis do you possibly say that a mixed martial art should come to Kyrgyzstan? You might have a great answer. There might be gyms all over the place. It might be huge over there. Maybe they got something on the regional scene or an amateur scene. Maybe you got up-and-coming fighters. Maybe you got movie theaters there and they're selling out and they're doing closed caption. They got a different kind of program. I'd be interested in all of these things. I know over in Japan, where you think this whole sport came from, they don't even have magazines on the shelves anymore. I mean, like different parts of the world, it's dried up completely. Possibly it's Kyrgyzstan isn't like that, but I would love to hear that. And when you talk about it's fair and you want to do a rematch, are you talking about sport or are you talking about business? It sounds like you're talking about sport, which I can get behind and respect. I'll leave you alone about the business. But if we're coming to your country and you're the Kyrgyzstan fighter and you think that the president's going to be behind it, like this sounds like a pretty big thing. Is there any level of interest that you have any level of basis from? Or is this back where ideas aren't going to come from you, they're going to come from the fans and you're willing to do what they want? I get a little bit lost in it. And Ariel was trying to help. Ariel was trying to steer her back. Do you have an opponent? Do you want a rematch? And there's no problem. There's no problem at all. I'm just sharing with you when I watched that interview. I mean, Ariel asked this 3 times. She said, I got a hurt hand. So I can't call anybody out because I can't tell you dates because I can't tell you when I could train. And I'm sitting back and saying, then why are you here? What is it we're doing here? And the Bullet did get victimized. She dominated that fight. Not only did I not have it a 10-8 round, of which I don't disagree with. You could come to that interpretation. I don't even think Grasso won the 5th round. I think the Bullet did. I think the Bullet won all 5 rounds. Handily. So I see where that would come from, but if you're not choosing to raise that argument and you think that the audience it's going to get suppressed. The audience is going to go with whoever puts out the best idea first. And if the Bullet is, in fact, the hardest opponent, Grasso knows how hard of a fight that was. Maybe she didn't mind a hard fight, but maybe she does. If the Bullet is now said, I'm hurt, I'm unwilling to independence and the president and Kyrgyzstan, Grasso's going to be, she's going to be able to come and throw water on that flame incredibly fast, should she want to. The good news for the Bullet is Grasso is just as bad and uninformed about this as she is.